Well, I'm really excited to kick off this second kickoff session of our Women at GitLab mentorship program. So thanks all for being here. It's been really cool to be part of this program over the last about year for me, but awesome to see how this program has grown since it started in 2020 with about 30 team members to about 60 team members when we ran this program last year, and now to just over 100. So I wanted to start things off by just thanking everyone for making time to be part of this program. It's been really cool to learn alongside everyone. And I have a mentor in this iteration, which is really exciting to be part of the program in that way too. So I'm excited to chat with our panel today and to follow everyone's success through this program. So for this kickoff session, we have 5 really awesome panelists who are here to share their experience with mentorship, either as mentors, as mentees, and potentially some as both, which is really awesome. Once we get started, I'm going to verbalize the questions that are in the meeting agenda, and panelists can feel free to just jump in whenever they feel like they want to answer. We don't have to follow a specific order. And along that same line, if you feel like you don't have anything to add, no worries, you can just pass on the question. I'm going to get started first with asking the panelists to introduce themselves by sharing their name, their role at GitLab, and their location. And I'm going to see if Kyla can go first for us.
Happy to. Thanks, Samantha. I'm Kyla Green-Dahl. I'm an area sales manager here for our US West commercial team, and I am currently residing in Bismarck, North Dakota in the Midwest. Over to you, Brittany.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brittany Rohde, and I am the Director of Total Rewards here at GitLab. And I am similarly located in the Midwest in Nebraska. I've been actually in 5 states in my 5.5 years at GitLab. And so excited to finally be settled here permanently. But I will pass it over to you, Sophie.
I am Sophie Polican. I am a manager on the technical account manager team in the East. And I am also in the Midwest. That's funny. I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio. And then I don't know who's next. Sorry, I don't have the.
I'll go next.
Robin.
So hi, I'm Robin Schulman. I head up legal and corporate affairs here at GitLab. I am based in not the Midwest, the Bay Area, and have been here for about 2 years. Just over. McBride.
I'm Michael McBride. I'm Chief Revenue Officer at GitLab. I live right down the street from Robin in the Bay Area in California. And I've been at GitLab for almost 4 years now.
Cool. Welcome, everyone. Do you actually live right down the street or just in the same?
It's a little bit of a long street, but yes,
a long street.
It's yes. I could walk to his house in an emergency.
Oh, awesome. Cool. Learning lots of new things about you all. So thanks for sharing. Okay, just to make sure we get through all the questions, I'm going to kick it off with this first one. And Brittany's going to be the first one to answer on this question. So the question is, what was your biggest accomplishment or takeaway that you've gained from a mentorship?
Yeah, so I had the very fortunate experience of being able to mentor actually with one of our panelists, Michael McBride, and then informally as well with Robin, just through all of the work that overlaps between Total Rewards and legal. And so, I think from the formal mentorship, one of the things that was such an accomplishment for me, or something that I took as so important in my career and just in what I look for in the future, is understanding more of just my niche of business. So, having that expertise and working with team members in the people group is, very important to build the technical skills and abilities for my role, but also being able to have a broader understanding of how sales operates and how sales intersects with people and finance and legal and R&D and all of the different groups, and being able to really zone out and get that business acumen and be able to pick someone's brain who's been there and can shed some light on how to think about certain things or why to think about certain things and what questions to ask was a big takeaway for me.
I can jump in on this one. I think, Brittany, you pointed out a good thing on why. Understanding the why is something that I picked up when I was a mentee. I had a good mentor early in my career. And And I didn't even know what questions to ask to try to get big picture understanding of why things happen and why decisions are made in the role. And this was my first job out of college. I was an investment banking analyst, and you sit in a cube and do a lot of Excel. And I didn't have as much perspective on really how the business worked for the firm. And my mentor, took me to lunch one day and wrote out on a piece of paper exactly how all the economics work in the firm, every job, every role, how much money they make, how much money partners make, things that I would never ask, like how much does the managing director for the team make, and kind of where these inflection points are in your career at that firm, and when it would make sense to leave and wouldn't. All things I would never have known to ask, but suddenly a lot made sense. And so I think it's important to feel comfortable pushing your mentor as a mentee, like to treat you as a peer and just explain it to me, explain how it all works. And likewise, as a mentor, it's a great opportunity to share what might have taken 10 years to pick up. And you might be able to communicate that in 10 minutes. That's super valuable.
Yeah, I agree, Michael. When I entered the women's mentorship program for the first time, I was a named account executive on our commercial sales team, and I had high aspirations of joining our leadership team here at GitLab as an area sales manager. And so during the mentorship program, my mentor, Craig Mestel, he was able to identify and help me look for the skills and key qualities that make a great leader and important areas to focus on in my personal individual growth plan. So several months later, I achieved that growth plan milestone of becoming an area sales manager here at GitLab. And I know that mentorship personally helped me really further develop and prepare me to step into that leadership role that I'm in today. And so that was pretty transformative for me.
I'll also echo what Kyla said. My mentor, who I worked with in the first iteration of the mentorship program that we had, it was with the Women in Sales program. I work with Brian. I still speak with him regularly, Brian Wise. But he helped me just take my career from being an individual contributor. So I came in to GitLab as a TAM, a technical account manager, to being an actual manager. It seemed like, from my perspective, when I was an individual contributor, the only way to get a manager role was if you had a manager role in the past or had manager experience. And so he really helped me just gain perspective on what I could be working on as an individual contributor, how to promote myself, how to gain that management experience without actually being a manager.
I'm not sure I have anything to add, Samantha. I see you adding my name. Everybody's comments have been really kind of exactly on the mark. I think the biggest takeaway I had from going through, this will be the third time I'm going through the program as a mentor. I think how much empathy it builds on both sides, because typically I'm paired with somebody who's been outside of my organization. It helps me be a better manager, quite frankly. It helps me kind of break things down for folks on my team that may be supporting the org that the person I'm mentoring is in. And I think it's, it actually makes me feel better too about some of the missteps I've made throughout my careers, that I can kind of help educate people about some of those things or pitfalls to avoid. And it feels like maybe they're, worthwhile having gone through for that to help somebody else kind of circumvent and go faster.
I think that's a great point too, Robin, because a lot of times the knowledge share is not always the great things that have happened in your career or the things that have been successful, but the downfalls or, moments where you had to reflect or, maybe poor managers you had previously that then you're able to help advise someone on, hey, maybe think about not doing this because this is the experience it can have. And so, it's a great point to, it's a lot of the positive, but also the negatives that you've had historically to move into that next constructive phase and help, someone going through the program.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I actually had a conversation with somebody on my team this morning about just my management style. And I think so much of it is things I witnessed as somebody else's, on somebody else's team under somebody else's management that I would never replicate. And so it's really interesting.
This is really fascinating too, because Sid had an AMA, I can't remember if it was last week or maybe earlier this week. And Nikki, who I'm not sure if she's on the call, asked him for advice going into this program. And he said, to be open and honest with your mentee mentor, because that's when you're going to get the most out of it. And so if mentors are willing to be open and honest about like the not so awesome things that have happened on their path, I think that both mentor and mentee can get so much more out of the relationship. Okay.
I think that's a great point.
That's
I'm
great.
not surprised that Sid is advocating for transparency on both sides of the relationship.
Right.
But I think it is great. Your point about transparency and on the, you know, the bumps along the way and the things that haven't gone well, that can often be even more instructive. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks everyone. I'm going to ask this second question. So mentorship is a growth opportunity both for mentors and mentees, which I think has become like really clear even just in this first question. And I'm wondering, what is something unexpected that you have learned from your mentee or from your mentor?
I can start. So working with Brian, so I got promoted earlier this in 2021, I guess, in the fall to a manager position. And so I'm a new manager. I'm learning all the different nuances of being a manager, handling difficult conversations, those types of situations. And so I bring some of those to my mentor call with Brian. And what I found really interesting is, even though I'm a new manager and he's managed for a long time and has experience being a manager, we all have the same situations and issues that we have to deal with every day. And so it's not that just because I'm new that I'm dealing with it, it's every manager seems to be dealing with the same thing. So we talk through issues together and come to conclusions together on how to handle situations.
I'm happy to jump in as well. So, you know, one of the things that I thought was really interesting was that not all career paths are always linear. And, you know, being able to hear experiences from, you know, mentors around how maybe they took different roles that offered different opportunities, or, you know, had a completely different, you know, niche and specializing in what they were doing for that role to gain additional knowledge and expertise. I think it was really cool to see and understand why you might take different opportunities or lateral opportunities within a business to be able to build your knowledge base and to be able to move into those later levels of leadership if that's what you're interested in, or different levels of management if that's what you're interested in, and how that can all intersect and connect together.
And to that point, Brittany, sometimes it's not even such a formal arrangement, but it's more like raising your hand if you see a gap or there's a need. You know, somebody may go out on leave, or there may be a new opportunity that, you know, isn't fully staffed yet, and raising your hand to kind of try that out and gain that set of experience to kind of broaden your skill set and make you a better candidate for whatever is going to kind of come along the way. And helping people kind of identify some of those opportunities that they may not be able to see.
Any other thoughts from our panelists on this question?
I'm trying to be patient. I have one that was an unusual experience. It was, I don't know if it's that I learned something specific in the moment, but I got unexpected advice. This was, and the advice was, you should leave the company and go take a new job. And the context is our company had been acquired by Motorola, a big giant company. This was back when I worked at Good Technology, and my manager, you know, pulled me aside and said, what are you thinking about doing? And he's, you know, basically, you know, probing, you know, with this post acquisition. And I was, you know, being very polite in my response. And he said, under no circumstances should you work at Motorola very long. He goes, you should go take a VP of sales job. And I wasn't a VP of sales at the time, and run a worldwide sales team. And you shouldn't take anything less than that. And it was kind of this jarring moment, but it was, you know, the kind of nudge that you look back on in your career, that I'm still appreciative and still thankful, you know, decades later for that nudge. And I still keep in touch with him, you know, in part on career path stuff, because he was so direct and supportive of me personally in that moment. And he was right. Like where this was going at Motorola was going to be very bad personally for a lot of the leaders in the business. And that would have been a lost couple of years, just sort of watching that happen, as opposed to moving on at the time and finding a great opportunity. So I'm not saying everyone should leave the company, but I'm saying that's part of that transparent truth. Like there's a time that, this is what's best for your career, whatever that is.
And to follow up on that too, it's also what's best for your family. And I remember, when we were doing some sessions, we talked about the Rohde family business and what does that look like and what's going to be best for, your family unit. And so being able to take all of that into account versus specifically where you're at in your role, looking at it, zoning out and thinking of the long term, what does this look like 5 years from now or 10 years from now, to start piecing in what you need to do to get there in the short term.
I think for me, it was more so the opportunities of what I expected it to be, of saying, I think it's just a conversation, right? I think the mentorship mentee process is just, hey, I'm going to log on here and I'm going to get some advice. I'm going to take this and apply it to my life and I'm going to be on my way. And I think that was my early perception of what the mentorship program really was. And I think that through my experience of being in the program is that my mentor really opened doors for me, and that I said, hey, I'm really excited about forecasting. I want to learn more about it. And he invited me to Michael McBride's CRO forecasting call, and he opened up opportunities where I wouldn't be invited to those calls maybe before because I was an individual contributor at that level, but it really opened up learning experiences for me to see hands-on how that process really worked, which then now benefits me in my current role now as I look to accurately forecast Michael.
Appreciate it.
That's great. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to move us on to this last question. And yeah, okay. So this last question is, can you share something that made your mentorship successful? So maybe like a process or something you did that brought your mentorship success.
I mean, I can start. The past two that I've gone through the program here at GitLab, I think each person I worked with kind of had an individual topic that they kind of wanted to handle for the length of the mentorship program. And it did change sort of week to week, but it was sort of the same theme and we kind of continued along. And for me, not surprisingly in my role, I enjoy advocating for people. And so helping people figure out how to advocate for themselves in certain scenarios and kind of, coaching them to see things from a different perspective that maybe they hadn't seen. In one case, it was, looking at things that they're already doing, right, and skills and kind of mapping those things to different roles or different areas of the business that might actually be analogous or make sense for them, or things that they, want to engage in, and what are they already doing that actually makes sense to kind of map to that. And just helping them kind of see things through a different lens. So I think bringing some sort of a specific, it doesn't have to be super structured, but it could just be a certain topic or something you want to focus on, I think is helpful.
Yeah, I agree, Robin. I think coming from a perspective of the mentee side of not just coming to the conversation expecting things to be in the doc and only it to be one-sided, but coming prepared with things that you want to talk about, that you want to pursue in conversation, that you want to share discussion about, that it's equally balanced on each side of, it was, taught by me that the mentorship program is also that mentors are also learning from you. And so having that kind of mindset, I think really is helpful going into the program.
I really echo this. One of the things that I wanted to make sure when I went into the mentorship program is, what am I trying to get out of it? And so putting together like the top 3 things that I was looking for out of, the conversations over time, and what that looked like from how to structure our agenda. And then there'd be certain items that we'd circle back on each week because they related back to the overall top 3 themes, or maybe it didn't, maybe we discussed it and I needed to take more thought. And so we take it off the agenda and I needed to do some work and reflection to come to the table with additional information to be able to advise. And I think that really helped, having that kind of overall parameters on what I was looking for, so that we could get as far as we could in, not everything's going to be solved in a day. And some of those things I'm still looking for sure. But, at least being able to understand what I wanted in the short term versus long term.
Anyone else?
I'll add one. It's simple one. It seems simple, but I think it's really powerful, and it's time. I think that the more time you have in not only total conversation, but in the specific conversations, the better. A 1 hour conversation is not double a 25-minute conversation. It's 5 times, in my opinion, because you're developing a relationship. You're developing some trust that actually puts you in a position to have those transparent and engaged discussions. So put the time into it. I consider the plan in the program to be the minimum. That's sort of, it's not like that's the perfect formula. Take a moment in those meetings when you notice, like, wow, we're on to something here. There's this topic that you've got a tough conversation coming up. Why don't you go work on a script, and then let's have a call in 2 days, and let's role play that conversation before you actually go have it. But take those moments to create more time, because there's an exponential benefit. I think as time increases, it's not linear. You get a dramatically bigger impact from the relationship.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Michael, too, because the last iteration of the program was 3 months long, and there was an option to extend, which a lot of people did. And based on feedback from last time, we've extended this one to be formally 5 months, which, just like you're saying, exponentially adds value based on the time you get to spend with your mentor. Before I open up the panel, the call to questions, Sophie, I just wanted to see if you had anything to add.
I mean, I think everyone touched on it. Come prepared to your meetings with your mentor. Come with like situations. I just have a doc that I keep, and I meet on a monthly basis with my mentor. So I just add things to the doc when a situation arises, a question comes up that I'm like, oh, this would be good to discuss. That's my tip.
That's great. Thanks, Sophie. Cool. Well, thank you, everyone. We have just about 2 minutes left, and Kelly has a question, so I'm going to pass it over to her.
Thanks. Yeah, I know a lot of folks find it hard or awkward to ask for a mentor. Does anybody have any advice on how you could best approach or what you could say to somebody who would like to find a mentor but doesn't know how to go about doing it?
I mean, the programs are a great place to start, obviously. And then I think, also talking to your manager and asking, you'd like a mentor, do they have any suggestions, or, could they help you make introductions or inroads? Like if somebody on my team came to me, I'd want to help them find somebody great. So I think those are good places to start. And then I think if you meet somebody kind of out in the wild that, you're interested in talking to on that basis, I think it's always, worthwhile kind of asking, if they have any suggestions about how to do this, and see if it needs to allow a natural progression. But I'd say anybody that you sort of respect and admire is probably, and you have a good relationship with, might make introductions on your behalf. That would be helpful. It's always flattering when people ask, right? So.
Great, thank you.
Great. Well, we're just about to hit time, so I just wanted to wrap things up and say thank you again to all of our panelists. This has been a really great discussion, and I appreciate you all being vulnerable and sharing your experience with mentorship. For everyone who's on the call, if you have any questions throughout the mentorship or you need support, you can always reach out in the Women at GitLab Mentorship Slack channel, and I will follow up next week with some more reminders and resources as we kick off this mentorship program. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Samantha, for doing
Thanks
this.
for setting this up.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Samantha.
Bye.